Hello, welcome to Recovery Demystified, a show where we explore our relationship to substances from a radical, non-religious, and empowering lens. Our sobriety is not a purity contract. It is an invitation to become curious about ourselves and find our own unique paths to growth and healing. If you've been questioning the role of alcohol or drugs in your life and haven't found the resources that you need, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to Recovery Demystified. My name's Early. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. Y'all, I'm low-key, high-key, a little bit freaking out. I just got an email from the Dopey podcast. I felt like it was a complete shot in the dark, and I sent them an email asking to be a guest on their show. And I was like, oh, this is just going to go into some inbox that has like a zillion emails in it, and I'm never going to hear back, but I might as well try. And they emailed me back being like, can you come to New York to do an interview? And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's just so great that someone finally appreciates my resume of being a fuck up and a loser for, however many years. Literally, my email was like, and then I was huffing poppers while driving, and then I smoked a bunch of crack in Miami, and then I stole more wine from Walmart than anyone ever in recorded history. And, fucking finally, someone appreciates my decadent addiction resume. So it's also like really terrible luck because as I've mentioned a couple episodes ago, I just quit my job because of ableist discrimination, and also because I want to focus on doing this recovery work and trying to figure out how to make money from it. So I will go ahead and mention again that there's a Patreon and a donor box if you want to support the production of this podcast and the work that I do. Anyway, y'all, it's crazy. You never know what's going to happen when you get into recovery. One of my besties says, I wonder what will happen next. And that's the life. It's the fucking life, man. Anyway, today I've got part 2 of Cecil's interview, and this one gets into a lot more of the really hard stuff. His life falling apart, more suicide attempts and blackouts. We talk a bit about porn addiction, which I think is a really important thing to destigmatize and bring out of the darkness. And I'm super appreciative that he touched on that in his story. And y'all, I try not to judge people for anything that we do in our addiction, but you will hear me judge Cecil for hurting his dog. And I don't regret that. Don't hurt your dogs, please. They're angels. They're just here to love us. But that being said, he expresses remorse, and I forgive you, Cecil, for hurting your dog, but you'll hear me judge him. So that might be the only time you hear me judge someone on this podcast. And then also, I did just want to make a little mention of, he talks about his experience with the police showing up during a mental health crisis and how they were very helpful and kind to him during that interaction. And it's just really important to me when addressing issues and focusing on serving historically marginalized communities. It's important to me to emphasize that most of the time when the cops show up during a mental health crisis, they are not helpful. And that although Cecil's experience is his truth, it is his reality and it's his experience, that he is, a straight white cis man in the army during this interaction with the police. So a lot of times when the police show up and that is not the person's demographic, it can go a lot of more dark directions. So I just wanted to mention that although he speaks his truth, that is not often the case when the police are called to mental health emergencies. We also get into a bit about homelessness, a little bit about cutting, addressing ADHD and how that all weaves into the addictive process. And most importantly, at the end, we talk about addressing emotions, because the theme of Cecil's story is suppressing emotions, beginning in childhood and then continuing into adulthood with his addiction. And when he is finally able to get in with a therapist and start hashing out his childhood and all of his trauma, figure out ways to address his emotions in a healthy way and to process them in a healthy way. Like, you hear him actually describing the experience of feeling his emotions while we're recording. It's really beautiful. And he says shame is the antagonist here. And I really believe that if we can get that shame out of our lives and learn how to love ourselves, learn how to believe in ourselves and respect and process our emotions as a normal, healthy adult human being, then there's no real need for substances anymore because there's nothing that needs to be suppressed and numbed. And I just really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm really excited to share it with y'all. So without further ado, here is Cecil part 2.
Were you blacking out then too?
Every time.
Yeah.
I basically, it was to the point where it started where I wasn't blacking out all the time. And then it got to the point where I was very functional. I was very able to function. I was making high remarks, meritorious promotions. Nobody knew at that point, it was so common because we're all turning 21 at this time too. So it was very, it was just a culture, a drinking culture within the Marine Corps, a heavy drinking culture. So I could camouflage it as something that wasn't a problem. Mm-hmm. I could just drink all the alcohol I wanted. And we could go out to restaurants and places and just rack up the biggest bill ever and brag about having to get home and that we're gonna have to have our wives drive us home because we're so messed up. And I just remember this eventually I started to realize that actually I didn't realize this. I should frame this as this was subconscious, but I was buying, and this became a theme for many years to follow. I would hide my drinking stuff subconsciously. This was not something I thought about on the regular, but I would buy Captain Morgan, and this is not fancy alcohol by any means, but at the time in my brain, I justified my drinking by buying mid-shelf liquor. So I would buy specifically it was Captain Morgan's private label or private stock or whatever the hell it's called. And I would justify my drinking habits by buying this mid-shelf stuff. Because I was functional, I was able to obviously keep financial security. And because when you're in the military, a check just rolls in every 2 weeks or every month or whatever it was. You would have money, and we would get additional money because we were married. And never had problems with buying this stuff. And so I would continuously have microbrewery stuff because Washington State's big on their little breweries or whatever, and I would always justify my drinking by buying stuff that was upper class, upper shelf, And
you're
so,
I'm fancy. I don't have a problem.
Yeah,
Can't
absolutely.
be a problem.
This isn't a problem. And I never actually realized I had a drinking problem until much, much later. But I was just drinking and drinking and drinking, and the mental health problems were absolutely still there and getting worse. And I think I think my wife knew. So, we stopped being, I stopped going out. It was slow. And again, this is the thing about substance abuse that's so, in our relationships with alcohol and just other substances, I mentioned, with maybe pornography or anything. I think I just classify it all as relationships with these things, these addictions. They're slow. I don't think they're just people think that you just pick it up one day and you're just in it. But it's much more subtle and slow and insidious than that. And
yeah, you can't just put a pin in the moment you got addicted. That was it. Yeah,
absolutely not. Yeah, it was a slow degradation of me, because I was always this fun, happy, go lucky. I was always trying to make people laugh, and a lot of that was trying to break the mood. If things were really hard, I would try to cover it up. I've not watched it, but I've heard that new Joker movie is very much the one that had Phoenix in it. I can't remember his name, but anyway, that new Joker movie that came out is very much it kind of shows that. And so, yeah, it was just very slow. And I stopped going, it all started with I stopped doing the things I liked. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped going out with my wife to do certain things, to do things she liked. And there was some immaturity on my part, just being young. But an additional source of that was I was carrying around all this pain that I hadn't addressed. And I won't address it for many years to follow. But I didn't address this pain. And I was drinking so much that it got to the point where my wife came in and I was sitting on the edge of the bed and I was holding a Glock to my head, and she had to stop me. There's a lot of guilt and shame here because of what I was doing to her, like by not addressing like how much I was drinking and how much I was like using this like stuff. And like also I should clarify, at the time I was also still having a lot of issues around like my sexuality, and like I had a problem with like, there was just a lot of stuff. Like I was having a problem with like alcoholism, obviously, and like pornography. Like I was just really using a lot of this stuff to like cope, which was really getting in the way of relationships. And like I hurt her so deeply by her having to constantly put out the fires throughout this like very brief marriage that we had. You know, it lasted, you know, a couple of years. And she just came in and was just like, saw me there. And like she did. I don't know how she knew. I really, to this day, and I still don't know how. She just knew that like I was going to do this. Like I didn't say shit. I was playing a game at the time, and I just turned around, grabbed my gun, sat on the edge of the bed, and didn't even think twice about like what this was going to, you know, do to her.
It was like spontaneous.
Oh yeah, I was so drunk. I was so intoxicated, and I think the pain, that searing pain that I had like kept pushing down, kept bubbling back up.
That's the thing about drinking too, is like, in my experience, it's like at first it does the numbing thing, and you can like effectively, what were you calling it? Squish cat?
Oh yeah,
You can effectively keep numbing and stuffing down those emotions, but then eventually it stops working for that. But you're already addicted and you keep drinking, and then those emotions come up while you're drunk, and they're like big monsters. They're like a million times stronger when you're drunk, and it's fucking like crazy and intolerable. And it sounds like that's what you're experiencing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very key for me to like kind of frame it in a way that like I was never like addicted to the substance. I was addicted to what it was doing for me. It was helping me push that pain back down. Like it was basically the water that kept the fire at bay. Every time things would get big, I would drink. And it's so funny because alcohol is a depressant. And it's so goofy because like, and sometimes, here's the thing, is it's so much like my dad, my relationship with like my dad, where it was so inconsistent. Alcohol is a depressant, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think that's the case with a lot of substances, because we're addicted to what it does for us, not to the substance itself. I think that's how I frame it, and the way I view it is, what is this doing for me? And it was protecting me. Like this alcohol was protecting me from this overwhelming stuff. And she caught me, and that was like a, dude, what are you doing moment. And again, it was another one of those moments where like, all right, man, time to get your shit together. You are a problem. Like,
was this sort of like a tipping point for you when you realized that what you were doing wasn't working anymore?
No, not really.
Not really.
Yes and no. It was one of those things like the idea's great, the practice of it, not so great.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, there is a problem. You have a problem. Like there's something not here and you don't like it. The problem is, like most people, I wasn't raised in a mental awareness kind of, that never got talked about. Like mental well-being, like that, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what mental health was. I'm gonna be like real, like that's like woo-woo shit at this point for me. That doesn't exist. Like mental well-being, like emotions, like those are things you put away. You're not allowed to have them. Like very much like my father's like words ring out, like, you know, I'll give you something to cry about.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, like, but that, like, you weren't allowed to have emotions. And to be real with you, I wasn't able to cry until recently. Like, this is something I was able to do recently. Like, I wasn't able to ever cry. And I couldn't. It just wouldn't happen. And the only times I would cry was when I was, like, absolutely shit-faced, blackout drunk. Like, I had to be absolutely on the brink. Well, actually, that was the one time I cried. I didn't cry following that first kind of ordeal, that first attempt with involving my mom. I don't really remember myself crying after that. But I did cry here because I knew I had hurt my wife so deeply. And I was hurting myself, like, continually. I was just hurting everybody. And it was because I just didn't know any other way. I just didn't know any better. And I didn't know why I was hurting. And I just didn't know. I was just so oblivious. And so flash forward, I have to move duty stations in 2015. And our relationship was pretty damn dull at this point. Like, we were not intimate. Like, we weren't around each other really a lot. Like, we did hang out with each other on the couch, and like we would like watch shows and stuff together, but we weren't present with each other. There's a key difference between like being there around being around each other, but actually being present is a whole different ball game. And so we were checked. I was checked the fuck out. Like, I was not there, and like I was still drinking. Like, that never stopped. And I had a lot of friends that were kind of feeding, obviously they continued feeding the beast, so to speak. And like things continued onward. And I just thought like, oh, like you trying to hurt yourself, that's the problem. Not the why, like I never had that ability to be like, why? And so flash forward, we are getting ready to move, me and my wife. And when you move, this is a big life transition for everyone involved, because like you and your buddies typically don't move together. So the buddies and friends you made do not go with you. So not only do I move to a place by myself, my wife sees an opportunity to get out. She's like, oh, I don't know if she did this consciously, but she was like, I'm going to go and stay home. Like when we go home for leave, I'm going to stay home and work on college. So that way, when you get out of the military, you can go to school or whatever you want to do. And like, we'll be ready. Like, I'll be able to provide for us financially. And I think she truly did have intentions to do that. But I think also subconsciously, there was like, just like my brother back in the day, it was time to get out because this dude is problematic.
She said, the door is open. I'm walking through it.
Yeah, like I think she truly knew that I was a good person at heart, and like I was a very kind and empathetic and sweet person. But I think I had a lot of problematic behaviors. Obviously, mood swings comes with a lot of this. Unpredictability. There were times where I would, yell, or like I should also very much say that I was not a very kind person. Particularly, I would never get angry and touch my wife, but like I would have explosions of angers towards our animal or animals. Like, so like my dog, like I would hit my animals. I would hit them so hard. Like,
Cecil.
Yeah, this is a thing that I think is important to share because it's a part that I carried great shame about for many, many years. And I continue this trend for years, and I'll try to be brief along these things. But like I had an uncontrollable rage that I was just so angry. And not only was I angry at myself, I was angry at the world. I was depressed. There was so much it would just come out, and I'd have to this would happen. And just for the most goofy of stuff, like they chewed the carpet, big whoop. That's what puppies do. Get over it, dude. But like in reality, something small like that was the most triggering thing. It like put me back in this environment. Like when my dad used to do this to me, I immediately was that guy. I was my dad.
That's a scary thing to realize.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, is that fueled more
self-hatred.
Oh yes, and way more addiction, like more like alcohol abuse.
What had to happen for you to try to quit?
Oh, this didn't come for many years later, and this is when the little bit of twinkling at the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel started to happen. But some things had to happen. This happened. My wife stayed. I left. She ended up cheating on me. The guy that she cheated on me with called me one night when I was in North Carolina. So I'm out there by myself. So to be frank, I was paying for a place to live off base out there, a very rundown government-style kind of housing, very unsafe environment. I was living in that because it was very, very cheap. And I was paying for her a place to live. I was paying for her a car. I bought her a car. I was paying for her a house. And it was a trailer, but like I was paying for like her a place to live in. I was paying for all these things. And so I was paying for all of that. I was paying for my own stuff. I was alone. I had no friends at that time quite yet. Well, then I had some friends move in with me. And I'll skip over a lot of that stuff because it's kind of just whatever. It's the same pattern, same kind of BS, still drinking a ton. And I was literally drinking like a fifth, like probably a day. Like I was probably going through a bottle of Captain Morgan's probably like once a day, maybe twice a day. I don't know, once every couple days. It was a lot. I was going through a lot of liquor because I could get the effect that I wanted from the liquor. So I avoided beer, and if I did beer, I was to be transparent on like how I was like living at the time. As I bought alcohol less on like what it was more of like how much percentage of alcohol is in this.
I got to that point too. Yeah. Start reading the labels. You're like, we have one goal here, and it's not because we're fucking enjoying the taste anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I never really enjoyed the taste. I do and to this day I still enjoy the taste of beer, sure, but I never enjoyed the taste of liquor, and it was just like one of those things. Like I would just look for the biggest like ABV you got. So like Bud Light Platinums were hot at that time. And so they were like 6%, and so like I was just buying all the, Anyway, I get this phone call one night. In fact, it was June 18th, 2015, about 10:30 p.m. These memories are very vivid for me. And so this guy calls, and he's like, hey, man, do you know who I am? And I was like, yeah, I know of you. Why? What's up? Why are you calling me? And he's like, well, I think you should get a divorce with your wife. And I was like, whoa. Like, I was, for the record, I was kind of drinking, but I was not drunk yet. And I was like, hold on. What? Like, what do you, like, I was just so off guard, like, caught off base. Like, I didn't know what to do here. And he was just like, yeah, I slept with your wife, and he was like, it's just really weird for me, like, being in, like, I was in your house, like, all your pictures and stuff are on the wall, and I felt guilty. I felt like I should call you. And he, he said that, and I remember the words I told him. I was like, the only thing I told him was like, thank you for doing that. My life is on your hands now, or my blood is on your hands now, rather. And I hung up the phone, and I chugged everything I had in the house, and I had a lot of stuff in the house. I remember chugging like an entire, like I drank almost like within an hour's time frame. I chugged everything I had. And I remember having 2 Bud Light Platinums left, and I had texted my brother at this point because I wanted so badly for someone to know that I cared about them and I loved them, and I knew that I was going to end my life this night. This was like the night, but I wanted to be near someone, and I didn't want to be alone. And so like I went outside with these 2 beers. And, like, there was this guy, I don't even know who this dude was. It was just some random dude. And so I go outside, and the text to my brother is important because I'll come back to that in a second. But I go back, I sit down next to this guy, we're drinking this beer, and I'm like, yeah, man, these are my last beers. And I meant that quite literally. And he didn't know that. This dude had no freaking clue. He didn't even know who I was. He was just, like, happy to have a free beer and, like, company. He was just sitting on his porch. And I'm sitting there drinking this beer, and like I chug it when I see some flashlights come around, and I hear my name come out, and I'm like, what is this? But I kind of knew what it was because like it was very obvious this had to be the police. And because I was like, who else would have like flashlights and be rolling up like 6 dudes deep? Like what? I think there were like 3. I saw 3, I think, and there were like 3 more inside of the house already. That woke up my friends that were living with me at the time off base because I thought it was cool to live off base. And so they were obviously scared as shit because, like, there's, like, cops in the house.
And it was because you sent your brother the text?
Yeah. And he told my mom, and my mom had enough sense because I think she realized how unwell I was. She messaged the police department in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and they immediately started searching for me. And I'm going to be real. I actually have no idea how they knew where I lived. I cannot remember to this day how the hell they knew where I lived, but they did. And so, of course, they call out my name. They're shining the light in my face, and they're like, hey, man, like, are you Cecil? And I was like, well, yeah. I had no reason to lie to them, and I wasn't trying to hide anything. And I knew at that point 2 things. I was caught, and I was saved. There was such a relief for me, and these guys were amazing. Like, these police officers were absolutely amazing. I think police officers oftentimes do get a bad rap, but I will say that in my professional experience, they did an amazing job, and the ones that I've worked with in the past have always been very, very good about this. They were like, hey man, like, we're just coming to check on you and stuff. Are you doing okay? Like, they were like just checking in with me, checking base. And then when we got in the house, they were like, well, we're going to be real frank with you, man. Your family's really worried about you. You basically said some things that triggered some alarm bells for them. And of course, I wrote a message on a whiteboard that I had in my room, and they obviously had seen it. They're already in my room. They didn't know where my gun was. That's really what they were wanting to know, is where the hell is this guy's gun? Because they knew I had a gun, or at least they suspected it. And so they were really, they were almost overly chill about this. And I went in there and I picked up a towel that I had the gun under, because I didn't want anyone to see it. So I took this gun and I literally pulled up the towel, and they literally let me. I mean, because I think they knew there nothing was going to happen from this, because I was crying, like the tears were just fucking coming out, like I was exploding with just like, I just was like, I felt so seen, and I couldn't believe that, this was going on. Like, my life was falling apart. Like, everything I knew was falling apart. My wife had abandoned me, which, again, not her fault. I mean, she could have maybe approached this in a different way, but, like, again, like, giving her grace here, like, she was just doing her best for someone that was having a lot of, like, I was having a lot of stuff come out. And so they take the gun, and they call my unit, and I get hospitalized. They take me to the local naval hospital there in Jacksonville, and I get committed for 3 days. And I just remember continuously apologizing and hugging like these police officers. And I remember apologizing to the guy that was from my unit. I've never met this guy before, but he was driving me. He was in my unit though, and he was driving me to the place, and I was just like bawling my eyes out the whole way. There was so many tears, and I was just like crying, and I was so embarrassed, so angry, so hurt, and there was just so much that I just kept pushing down. And anyway, I got hospitalized for 3 days. They put me on Prozac and some medications. Of course, they threw me on medications and stuff, which is fine. The medications can be very beneficial, and they were for me at the time. So they got me in there for 3 days. It was not great because it's a very medical model of care. It's very brief. It's very like, we just need to stabilize you and get you the hell out of here. So that was kind of whatever. Then I get transferred to a place called Bryn Mawr. It's a inpatient facility that I was in there for 28 days. I stayed in there, and I met a lot of guys just like me. And that was eye-opening experience. That was an eye-opening experience for me. There was guys in there that were addicted to all the substances you could ever imagine, and they were military members, just like me. It was a special little military group that was in Bryn Mawr, and they were all from all walks of life. There were officers, there were enlisted guys, like there was dudes that were having very similar life paths to me. And interestingly enough, some were open, some weren't. And come to find out, many of them had very many experiences that were similar to me. And that's when I first got my first little taste of mental health care, like real, honest to God, like, mental health care type stuff. And I just remember we did an exercise where we wrote a letter to ourselves and like our former selves, like letting go of the former self. And like, there was just a lot of practices in there that these therapists, and I remember this psychologist that I was working with, his name was Dr. Barnes, maybe? I can't remember. Amazing guy. He was a no-nonsense, no bullshit kind of guy. And we're just hashing out my background and like my substance use. And he was just like, no shit. He's like, he literally said that. Like, and I've never had that interaction before. He's like, no shit, you're going to use substances. He's like, okay, I want you to flip the script around. You are a little boy raised in this situation, and I want you to look at it from an outside, like bird's eye view. Is any of that shit normal? Like, does that sound like the shit you'd see on a Hallmark channel, like a normal family? And then I just had this realization. I was like, oh my God.
Like, it felt normal when you were a kid, but reflecting on it as an adult with more context and information,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
kind of fucked up.
So this was a key turning point for me, but it was not the end by a long shot. And I think this is a key important thing, is that although I found this experience very beneficial, I was in there for 28 days, I came out of my unit not knowing what to do with all of this information and all of this like stuff, because you have to understand and give yourself some grace in this situation, which I didn't. And it's very difficult to do without a social support. I didn't have social support at this time, or I didn't think I did. And that's the key thing. Perception is I perceived that I was alone again. And I was just out of this facility alone. And I continued outpatient care. I did the things. I did all of the things. And that really was helpful. I did outpatient therapy once a week, and I looked forward to it every week. It was amazing. Like just being able to escape the military and like the confines that I was in. And I could go all day about this stuff. But like I was getting so much from this guy. You know, we were working through some things, and it was giving me a time to like kind of hash this stuff out. But I didn't have anywhere to like fall back on afterwards. Like there was no like social support for me to like kind of just be around. And I was still alone, very alone. And that's when I picked up cutting. I don't know why. I mean, I kind of know why. Me and my ex-wife talked about it because she kind of had some issues with this. So I started picking this up because it helped me not drink as much. I can't remember if I was going to AA at this point or not, but it's coming up very soon. So I started like cutting in the shower, and I'm doing all this stuff, just like trying to like not drink, which is not helpful. You kind of have to address the why. Why am I drinking? But I wasn't. I didn't know how. We didn't really get that far in brief 28 days of therapy. And then obviously this outpatient stuff, like you're trying to undo years, decades of hurt, of pain. This is not something you can wake up one day and just like delete it. Like it's not like, oh, Control Alt Delete. Like we can move past it. Like
72-hour hold up. Oh, I guess I'm sober now. Yeah.
It's not a problem with the facilities themselves. It's more about the education around it. Like no one ever told me like, hey man, like this is going to take a very, very long time probably. Like there's a very real chance that it's going to take you maybe just as long to undo and to like accept and to move past and through all of this hurt and pain and suffering that you're having as it did to have it. And so I didn't know any of that shit. And I know that now. But like, that was like, I will say, I'm going to give credit there. That was like, there was a little twinkling at the light at the end of the tunnel. And there was some medication things during this time. Like I was on a whole lot of meds. They maxed me on everything. Like I was maxed out on literally everything you could have. And I was a zombie. But I was a functioning zombie. I showed up to work. I did my things.
How long were you sober for before you started drinking again?
Not very long.
Yeah.
I fell back into it. Probably not even, oh God, I can't even tell you. My memories are fuzzy.
Yeah.
Because I started digging. That's the thing when you dig into trauma, fuzz starts to kind of happen a little again.
Your brain dissociates to protect itself.
Yeah, It doesn't want to feel it, you know? And I think that's a key thing is letting yourself, like finding a way to feel it safely. And I wasn't doing that, right? And so I started drinking again, but I stayed away from liquor. I was like trying to justify it in funny ways. I was trying to be like, oh, like I'm drinking beer. Like I'm drinking beer, guys. Like that's not like alcoholism. Like I'm not an alcoholic. And so it was just so funny, like, looking back on it now, I can laugh on it now, because it's like, my relationship with alcohol is so much different. And also, I never was around any circles that was interested in, I think, hard drugs. I'm going to say hard, quote unquote. So, like, basically anything that wasn't alcohol. Or maybe marijuana, which I never had marijuana either until kind of recently in life, but like I never was around any like hard drugs. You're right, like anything like heroin, cocaine, meth, fentanyl. I wasn't around any of that stuff, any of the hallucinogenics even. Like I wasn't around any of these things. And so like my substance kind of relationship was strictly with alcohol. Because it was also super freaking easy to get. I think that's a thing that gets overlooked is like those other things take active work to get. Like, I literally can go to any store and buy all the alcohol I could ever want.
You can't walk into the freaking gas station and buy cocaine.
No, like that's...
I mean, maybe some gas stations.
Yeah, but technically, you're still, like, you're having to, like, look over your shoulder. Like, the ability to not look over your shoulder and buy, literally, you could buy the store. you could literally, if you had the money, you could just buy the liquor store.
Yeah, it's
Like-
fucking crazy how accessible, how acceptable it is,
Yeah.
and how many people's lives are also fucked up by it.
Yeah.
Let's bring it to your sober date.
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
Oh, yeah. So I had a very on and off, again, relationship with alcohol. I drank heavily, and I actually went sober for a year through AA. And I also think it's important to highlight that I was homeless during this time. I had got kicked. Oh, I should clarify real quickly. I got kicked out of the military for getting mental health care. You're not allowed to really do that. That's very stigmatized. You're kind of like broken. And so that was hard for me, and that really kind of picked me up to drinking again. But then I got into AA when I got out. I was homeless, living in my car, and I was going to AA, and I kind of fudged it a bit, and I was drinking on and off. And eventually I got to the point where I did stay sober for close to a year. But the key problem was I wasn't really doing anything. I was existing. I got my license to like work as a EMT / paramedic, and I was a year sober, and like
What kept you sober during that year? Just like gritting your teeth? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it was like there was also like AA gives you chips, and there was again I really hyper focus on like things like achievement. And, like, the year award was, like, very achievable for me. Like, I could see it because, like, you would get, like, a monthly award. You'd get, like, a quarterly reward and then, like, a biannual and then an annual. And, like, you'd get these chips, and those were so cool, right, for me. Like, I was like, oh, dude, I could earn these chips. Like, that's sweet. And so
people are clapping for you and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You're getting cheered on. You're getting accepted, and you're getting all these things. And AA is great for what it can be.
It works for some people, for sure.
But I think for me, it had nothing to do with AA. It was like the things I was getting from it, like the achievement, the awards, and like these things. But then at a year, the awards dry up. Then they do, yeah. You don't get another award for another year, like because they only do a 1, then a 2, and I think they might even skip it for a while after that. I'll be honest, that's outside of my realm of like knowledge because I stopped.
Yeah.
I stopped going. I picked up drinking again. And so I actually didn't get what I would consider sober until very, very recently. I would say within the last, would I consider myself sober? I don't consider sobriety abstinence. I think that gets a bit tricky. I think sobriety means, for me, what it means to me is that I finally found peace and acceptance, and like I've done a lot of therapy. I've gone to therapy for a long time since then. I've been on and off with therapists, on and off, and I've had to do a lot of trauma processing with people, and I found acceptance kind of like within myself, and it's just like peace. Like there was there was many days where like I would come home and I'd fall asleep drinking or not drinking, and like there would just be like this hum in the background. Like my mind just couldn't shut off when I slept. And obviously like drinking a bunch of alcohol would allow you to do that, but you'd sleep like crap. Mm-hmm. And so like a lot of this kind of kept on, and eventually I kept doing this self-work, and I think the self-work's important, and I'd like to obviously talk about that at some point. But in line with like sobriety, I got to the point where like I found 2 things. One, I probably have ADHD. I've never been formally diagnosed, and I basically ran out of insurance and never got diagnosed formally. But obviously looking back on my behaviors and who I was, and like all of this like really hypersensitivity to emotions, like big emotions and all these things, and just the way that I am. Turns out people that I spoke with my recent therapist about this, that people that have ADHD and neurodivergent traits in that way have problems with binging. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they reach a certain threshold and then the rails are gone.
Yeah,
like the train is it's leaving.
The executive dysfunction
in
the brain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I spoke to her about it, and that really opened up some things for me. And so like I basically strayed away from very, very hard like liquor, and I had to kind of experiment with like social drinking first. And it was very like slowly like wean myself away from it, like push myself away from it, right? And so like I've gotten to the point now where I don't drink at all. And I'll get to why that is in a minute. And it has not really anything to do with like basically my relationship with alcohol and those needs and like the acceptance and like the pain. I had to work through those things. And when I worked through those things, it got much easier to stop drinking entirely. And because I finally was able to address what was it doing for me and how can I meet that in a different way. It was more of the why question or the how question. And I basically worked with her through that. And then afterwards, I continued doing the work. I continued mulling it over and thinking about it. And like, I would drink like a beer here and there. And so like my sobriety, I came before then. My last huzzah was like maybe 1 or 2 New Year's Eves ago. And after that, I realized that's when I realized I had a problem with binge drinking specifically. And like, I was like, okay, I can't do this. I hate this. I don't like what's happening here because it scares me. I think it got to the point where I hated losing track of time. I hated losing space. That scared me. And I love remembering things. I love memories. I love being around people. I love the social aspect of things and just being able to experience joy and happiness and all these other emotions, but you can't do that if you lose the time. And that scared me so bad. And I basically was like, okay, we got to figure this out. And so I started really digging into it. I got curious. And that's why I like the line of like sober curious. Mm-hmm. I got really curious about why? Like I had to address the shame aspect, which Kristen Neff, as a psychologist, does a lot of research around guilt and shame and self-compassion. And I really dug into like the curiosity piece of addressing the shame with things. And I found that once I addressed my shame and the guilt and like all these other emotions, but particularly the shame was what was blocking me from addressing all of the other emotions. And so once I got to the bottom of it, I realized it's not the alcohol, it's like what it's doing for me. And I started like really getting curious about it. But then I got to the point where I just didn't want to drink at all because like I would even like drinking like one beer or like 1 or 2 IPAs, I would get the worst freaking hangovers. Like, and you would be useless the next day. And I'm pursuing academics and like it was just in the way. And like I'm a very goal-driven person. And like I was like, okay, alcohol is just in the way. It's in my way for the things that I want now and the things that I want to do and like I'm passionate about. And like I had to just like be like, okay, like these hangovers are like no-go. Like this is a no-go. And so I just got really into like coffees and teas and kombucha and like a lot of like fun things. And also just I love being present with people. I found that like just getting out and just like being with people has been really therapeutic for me into meeting those needs that alcohol I thought was meeting for me at the time. And there was a joining of defenses, I think, is the way I frame it, as like alcohol was meeting a need for me. And I think it's okay to honor it for what it was doing and to join with it and say, thank you for protecting me through those years. But, I think it's time that you and I maybe have a different relationship. I think it's okay if you exist maybe in my friends' lives. If they want to drink that, beer, cool. But like you won't be in my life anymore. Like you're kind of breaking up with it, But I'm going to honor you. I'm not going to shame you or be criticizing towards you or angry towards you. I'm more kind of giving it a hug, so to speak, and saying, I'm sorry, it's not you, it's me, and I'm moving on, right?
It's amazing to hear your story in that you were able to like get that therapy and address all of the whys and the root causes and the shame, and that effectively that healing process, that therapeutic process, like effectively changed your view and your relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
I think that's fucking amazing. Are you at a point now, do you still have cravings?
No, and that's the funny thing is I think when I think about cravings, it's not like I craved the alcohol itself. Like I think when I think of cravings, I think the craving was more of like, I don't want to feel this. So I'm going to get rid of it by using this substance to meet that need. And so that would be more what my quote unquote craving was. It wasn't like I was like, ooh, I just can't wait to have some alcohol. It was more of like, I think subconsciously, I was like, that stuff I squished down is boiling back up again, and we gotta settle them down. The villagers are rioting. We need to subdue them by making them all drunk and drinking as much pot as possible. Because I think often for many people, I think cravings can exist in many ways, but I do think that part is really what people are craving, is they're craving to meet that need. I don't think people are craving the actual substance itself. They're craving that escape or whatever it is, whatever that is, whatever the substance is doing for them. That's the craving. They're craving the hurt, like the escape from the hurt, or because that substance is doing something and it's trying to say something to you. But what is it saying?
It's saying the feeling is too big.
Or, something.
What do you do now when you have big feelings?
I accept them and I feel them. And my wife now, I'm very open. And I'm very open speaking to even you right now about them. I got to a place where I like talking about them. I like having a good cry if it can happen. It's so amazing that we are able to it's a gift to have the ability to be emotional and vulnerable with each other and to show each other, our soft white underbelly. And I love that podcast, but to be human is to be vulnerable and to be emotional with each other. That level of connection is sacred and it's amazing, and it shouldn't be crushed or shunned away from. And I think once you get to a place where you realize that we're all hurting inside and we're all human and we all want that connection, I think it's so amazing and so beautiful to be able to share that with people. Obviously in a safe way. There are some people that will attack you. You obviously have to be very careful to some degree, but I think people would be surprised to find that people will become more vulnerable themselves by you being vulnerable. There's a joining, so to speak, with many. I think the majority of people want to get it out, but there's not a safe place to get it out. And that comes back to me saying, when you talk about it, it is so powerful because people, I think you'd be surprised that if you just say, you feel this feeling. I think the key thing is being able to identify it. What is this feeling? Right now I'm feeling it in my chest. There's an energy here and it's telling me something. It's part of it's it's fight or flight, but there's more to it than that. And it's an overwhelming kind of joy for me to speak about it. But also there is a bit of fear there. But I think it's also joining with the fear and saying, hey, no. It's okay. We're not in danger. Early's not here to hurt me. You are not in danger. It is safe here. You are safe, and your joy is here to celebrate that with you and to show your fear. Hey, no, it's okay. There's love and compassion here as well with the joy. Saying, hey, guys, we're all here. It's very much like that movie Inside Out. You see all those emotions floating around and living together, and there's a joining there. And I think once you get to that place where you can just be vulnerable and you can share this with somebody that you care about, eventually you can start sharing it with others. And I think I can identify these feelings much more easily as I've sat with them and not tried to avoid them. I just sit with them. If I feel it, I just sit. No distractions, no phones, no nothing. I just sit and I be with it. And I think there's a lot of mindfulness and meditation practices that are beautiful in that way, that teach you to kind of sit with it. But I think being with a therapist to help you teach you what those emotions are that you weren't allowed to have as a kid is massively impactful.
Totally. I just 2-3 years ago went over it with my therapist where we named emotions, and then there's a little silhouette on a piece of paper, and we'd color in where in my body the emotion was felt. And I remember I remember just kind of getting riled up about it at a moment. I was I'm in my fucking 30s sitting here with the therapist in the office learning what feelings are. Why are we in public school learning calculus and all of this bullshit, and kids aren't learning what their fucking feelings are, you know?
Absolutely.
It's so important. It's what makes us human.
It's literally the foundation of all fucking things. That's the thing that drives me nuts, is that you have as a human, that's our job, is to just be human. And we do such a great. We should do an amazing job. And this is not just American society. I have done a lot of looking around and a lot of research, and this is just worldwide across many cultures, almost all cultures. I would argue that many cultures are bad at this in different ways. It looks different, but the key core tenet is that we are bad at humans at being vulnerable with each other because of many reasons, but typically it comes to the fear of being vulnerable leads to negative consequences typically for most people. If you ever think about, like, when you were a kid, like, what did it look like for you to say, or no, not even to say, to cry? Even in your pre-verbal memories, when you were an infant, you probably don't remember this because you didn't have a hippocampus that formed until you're about 3 or 4 years old, but, like, you don't remember this, but your parents, like, what were they doing to you in pre-verbal? Like, what was your world like?
Trying to make you stop crying, probably.
Yeah, they're like, either physically they're going to shut you up, or, like, they'll, like, quickly try to put the flame out. Like, they'll quickly coddle you and bring you close. And to teach you to not have that emotion in some way, either implicitly or explicitly. And then you never learn what that emotion is because you're not allowed to have it. So when it comes up for you, it is so overwhelming and so painful that eventually you get introduced to these substances that do that for you. They work on those parts of your brain. And it's like I said, it's slow, it's insidious, and it's a slippery slope, because those substances will meet that need for you until they won't.
Until they don't. The thing about emotions, too, is sometimes part of the emotion is telling us death is imminent.
But it feels like it.
It feels like it. But the truth is that every emotion, every feeling is survivable.
Oh, absolutely.
It's important to remind yourself of that.
And it feels that way because of what was modeled to you when you were a kid, when you're developing and building these senses of quote unquote self. You have your brain develops things. I mean, we going into cognitive schema. Like, your brain puts things in so to speak, file cabinets. There are file cabinets, and when this thing comes up for you, you're modeling, and also there's nature too. Like, there's, like, who you are as a person, like how sensitive, like, especially if you're, like, neurodivergent, specifically if you're, like, in that field, you can be really hyper aware of these things. Like, the file cabinet can be real big for you. Mm-hmm. And I found that people that fall within neurodivergent categories tend to struggle with substance abuse more than your neurotypical people, because that feeling is really big. Mm-hmm. And it's because you're so aware. You are so aware. And trauma, regardless if you're neurodivergent or not, trauma can make those feelings even, like, more, like, your amygdala and, like, your limbic system is just on, like, hypervigilance for, like, danger. And when that feeling comes up that is either unfamiliar or quote unquote unsafe for a variety of reasons, whether that be because you were told it's not, you're told it's not safe, or whatever reason, you've had to make a lot of choices during your development that it seems like you're going to die if that need comes out, or it is just so big, it's like a giant monster, and you're just like this, like, tiny little infant again.
Yeah, if you turn and face it, it's always survivable. I've learned that. No matter how big the feeling is, if it tells you it's life or death, it's not. We can survive any of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Cecil, we've overstayed our booking in the podcast booth.
I knew this would happen. I can go down the rabbit hole all day long.
It's all good.
I love talking about this stuff. It's a passion of mine, and I think it's important for people to hear. Yes.
Well, there's 2 questions I usually wrap up with. One is, what do you think people don't understand about addiction?
I think there's too much stigma around it. Again, substances are filling a need for people that didn't have their needs met. And I think it's important to not ask what's wrong with the person, but what do they need? And I think that's the most important thing as joining. I think as far as the substance is asking, like, what is this substance doing for this person? What do they need? And then having the person also maybe reflect that on themselves of, like, what is this doing for me? What is it that I need? To try to address the shame and the blame in that way, and to keep it out, because shame is the antagonist here.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like everyone that's got an addiction has some little part inside of them that's telling them they're worthless. That's telling them to like feel that shame. So
yeah, that's the voice of shame. Shame is saying you're worthless. It's saying that you're not good enough, and it's the thing that keeps you from addressing anything else.
Yeah, and if we can start there and figure out the why. Why is this person using substances? Then that's a critical question. So thank you for that. If you could speak to someone who's in the darkest days of their addiction, what would you say to them?
I would say you're good enough. That you are enough, and you are not broken. And I'm here for you. I understand, and you can get through this. And sometimes you do need some help. I don't think it's smart to try to do it alone. I think finding those people that you can rely on and to be vulnerable with. But yeah, I would say, yeah, you're enough and you can get through it.
I agree. If the two of us got through it, you can get through it too. All right. Well, thank you for talking today. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Recovery Demystified. If you like what you heard, share it with a friend or rate and review us so we can reach a larger audience. Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our beautiful theme music is by Logan Bragg, and our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. We are entirely supported by your generous donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. You can find a link to donate in the description. May you be happy and free, dear listener.